And finally, our special return guest. And I might add, he's back from just a brief hiatus from this show. The word on the street is that his favorite rock band is a toss-up between 3 Days Grace and Three Doors Down. His favorite nursery rhyme is Three Blind Mice. And of course, his favorite sitcom is Three's Company. Smasher, a.k.a. Michael McKevitt, welcome back to Full House, brother. Sorry, I had to do it.
That Mike Enoch, what a wag. What a card. What a joker.
That was not Mike Enoch. That was Coach Finstock.
Fuck.
Who is the... No, it's cool.
This is I Don't Speak German. Here we talk about the far right, their fellow travellers, and what they say to each other when they think we're not listening. The show is hosted by Daniel Harper and me, Jack Graham. We're both he, him. Be aware, we cover difficult, sometimes nasty subject matter, so content warnings always apply.
Hello again, everybody. Guess what? You need to strap on your listening ears and abandon all hope for the human species in general, or of ever feeling good again about anything, because I Don't Speak German is back. Hooray!
Hooray! After a hiatus for health reasons, and I don't know, I feel bad. It's been kind of 2 years since we've really been at this full time, and a lot of terrible shit has happened in the interim, and I can't take personal responsibility for any of that, but I certainly could have. I think you and I could have helped people absorb the news a little bit more had we been up to recording. So
we could have stopped it all from happening if only we'd bothered.
If only we'd bothered. That was our fault, really. When Donald Trump is reelected in November, that's going to be on us.
It's on us.
What's going to happen?
Yeah. So straight back into it. I think episode 124. This is the first time Daniel and I have done an episode together, a serious, proper episode together in a year, I think, or just over a year.
It's a little over a year,
yeah. But
the last one was, I think, the Steven Crowder one.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
And the last sort of official mainline episode was the one that I did where I was very lucky to have Teddy Wilson on as a guest. Other than that, it's all been bonus things, but we are back to it. So yes, episode 124 of I Don't Speak German, the podcast that is called that, and is hosted by me, who's the person speaking to you, Jack Graham. I'm rusty, can you tell? And Daniel Harper, who has also been speaking to you so far and will now speak to you again about what the episode is about that we're doing now and what it is about. Daniel.
Absolutely. So we have done several episodes. I don't know exactly how many, but it's probably at least 5. I mean, I don't know, about the organization called the National Justice Party, because we did one when they first came out, and then we did a 2-parter about their 25-point political project, which it was very funny to listen to Mike complain that no one but us paid that any fucking attention. I wish I'd clipped that, but I'd have to go and dig through it. It's fine. And then we did one on the Waukesha documentary and some of their public projects, but it turns out that organization is no more. It is probably the most significant event that's happened in the extreme right since we've been gone, and so it is suitable for our first episode back to just discuss how much this party of clowns just completely failed to understand how to build a political organization. And I think it also feeds into some of the flaws with fascism as an ideology. I think this will be a fun show.
So, I mean, who could ever have imagined that the National Justice Party would not prove to be a durable and resilient organization in it for the long haul, and really just the cell of the new glorious society. I'm frankly stunned to learn that they've, and very sad, very, very sad to learn that they've. I'm not actually surprised or sad at all, listeners. I'm being sarcastic. Sarcasm, one of the many humorous and rhetorical techniques that we will be employing during the course of this episode. So, Daniel, tell us about the national. I mean, firstly, just in case this is somebody's first episode, you've listed sort of the other episodes that we've done about the National Justice Party. just in case there's somebody listening who didn't catch them. I know it's hard to imagine, but just imagine. Or maybe somebody heard them, but their memory isn't 100% on what was in those episodes. Maybe just start with a very brief sort of brush up on who the fuck the National Justice Party are.
Sure, or were, we should say. Although
Were,
they might
exactly,
come
yes.
back in some form. And so, that's one of the disputed bits. And we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of that because it is fascinating to me, like listening to these guys bicker, but also completely inane to like 99.999% of humanity has no interest in that. So we're not going to get into that.
And
But
the rest of them are listening to this show.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. So maybe I should get into that, but that just becomes a drama stream, and we never want to be a drama stream. So the National Justice Party was a political party, although it really was not. It was never registered as a registered political party in the U.S. because to be registered as a political party, you have to any donations you get have to be attached to like a name. Like you have to like know who your supporters are, and all that becomes public information above a certain dollar amount. Of course, they're not going to do that, And so it's technically an LLC. It's a limited liability corporation. It's essentially a small business that was run by the members, the paid members of the Right Stuff radio network. And these are Mike Enoch. Pinovich is his real last name, but Mike Pinovich, Enoch, either way. And then Jesse Dunstan, who goes by Sven, and then Alex McNabb. These are, to my knowledge, the only three like paid members of the rightstuff.biz. So the Right Stuff was a website first. Well, it was a Facebook group first, and then it was a website, and then it was a podcast starting in 2014. They do their primary project is the podcast, The Daily Showa, which is I think kind of inarguably at this point the single biggest podcast in white nationalism. I don't think there's anything that's even close in terms of its reach. And it has been so for at least since 2015, 2016. There's really no competitor in terms of its size. And the National Justice Party was a attempt at a political organization started by Enoch and his buddy Eric Stryker. His real name is Joseph Jordan, but he's gone by Eric Stryker online for years. And then several, and this gets into like why this whole thing collapsed. Several former white nationalist e-celebs who like glommed onto the project, and so it was Greg Conti was one who was one of Richard Spencer's old buddies back in the 2016-2017 days. Tony Hoveder, who was a founding member of the Traditionalist Workers' Party with Matt Parrott and Matt Heimbach. Michael McKevitt, who's a young guy who was one of the kind of founding guys on the Full House podcast, which the cold open was actually an introduction of Michael McKevitt from the Full House podcast after all this shit went down. We're going to explain that why the number 3 is significant here very, very shortly. And then the father and son team of Alan and Warren Balog. Alan Balog has ties in the white nationalist movement going back to the National Alliance. I think he was actually married by William Luther Pierce. I think William Luther Pierce actually served as officiant at his wedding. That shows you just how long he's been doing this.
William Luther Pierce being the author of the Turner Diaries.
The author of the Turner Diaries, among other things, and was active into this movement until he died in, I believe, 2002. And then his son Warren, who is we've also spoken of like some length. Like I always wanted to do a Warren Balog like episode by itself, and we will do that now that we're back, but we just never kind of got around to it back in the day. But so it started with those 7 guys. And you notice that all of those 7 people are, well, at least 6 are internet personalities. They're e-celebs and not movement organizers. And so they did some on-the-ground activism. They did a bunch of like stickering. They did some, well, and by on-the-ground activism, I mean that like whenever a black person committed a terrible crime against a white person, they would go a week later and do some big protest and complain that the black person is not getting hate crimes charges. Even if there were obvious motives beyond just like pure racial hatred that made those things happen, because that's how they drew up, some vision of support. And they would film it and put it on their Odyssey channel and their BitChute channel, and nothing ever really came of it, as it turns out. But so yeah, that was the National Justice Party. Is like, it was this attempt to build a sort of sort of a white nationalist focused political movement based really pretty overtly on what the NSDAP did in Germany in the 30s. Like their goal was to sort of build like a lot of what the NSDAP did was build like social movements around, we're going to provide you, like, we're a social club first. We kind of go, we do things together, we hang out, we produce art, we produce music, we produce all these things, or at least we sort of collect these things. And that's kind of how a political organization worked in Germany in the 30s. But it's completely obviated by current American political standards, in which everything happens on cable news or on the internet. And these guys have been banned from all those things, because it turns out when you're like really openly anti-Semitic and want to murder all the Jews, people don't want to bring you onto their television programs. It seems, I don't know, like that's just, they find that completely, they find that very sinister. That there's only one explanation for that, and it's because the Jews are just secretly in control of everything.
It's very unfair that their free speech is being taken away and they're being censored. And really, only one thing could possibly explain it, which is a vast, nefarious Jewish conspiracy. That's really the only thing that could possibly be happening here.
Absolutely. So
I told you I'd be using sarcasm, didn't I?
So that is the National Justice Party. Again, we've done many episodes on the right stuff, and Mike Enoch in particular, and the various shenanigans that have gone on over there over the years. Probably also notable is that several people from the Right Stuff Network, including probably most notably, as we're going to discuss in a minute, someone who is still undoxed, named Jazz Hands McFeels, was not a founding member of the NJP, in part because and I suspect in part because he did not want his actual name out there. One of the things with the National Justice Party is everyone like revealed officially their real names for the first time. Although most of these people all these people were fully doxxed. Like Enoch and Stryker. I think Stryker was the only one who had never like officially like said, "Oh yeah, my name is Joseph Jordan," but he went as Joseph Jordan, like that was his name, But I suspect Jazz Hands really didn't want to get involved, at least in part because he is terrified of his identity being exposed. So, but he was a giant booster and supporter the whole time. But it turns out that other people who were making racist podcasts for TRS, not such big fans of some of the back stuff, and some of the stuff that was going on behind the scenes with the National Justice Party, and that's kind of what we're going to get to turtle over today. So
you don't mean that there was infighting between them, surely?
Oh no, certainly not. No, there's never infighting.
So I think that's enough backstory. People are caught up now, hopefully. Those old episodes are still there if you want to go back and listen to them. So I think we can go straight into the story of the collapse now, if you want to tell us about that.
The first thing you have to do is to think about why I played the cold open I did.
And of course, his favorite sitcom is Three's Company.
That was Coach Fenstock, who was he was in Charlottesville on August 12th, 2017 for Unite the Right. He is a former employee of the U.S. State Department who got shit canned when it turned out, oh, no, you're actually a Nazi. His real name is Matthew Q. Garbett, and he currently runs the podcast Full House, which, again, we will eventually do a full episode on. It's a fascinating podcast. And Michael McEvitt was one of the founding people who mysteriously just stopped recording with them sometime in the middle of 2023. And nobody really understood why, except, well, Would you like to guess why there are many references to the number 3?
There's no way I'm ever going to guess this. That's just not how my brain works. Tell me.
Yeah. It's because you're not a right-wing shithead, because it turns out that Mike McKevitt and his wife Allison, who both of whom go by their real names, apparently, and accounts on this differ, but what is definitely true is they had a threesome with one of their close friends, like one of their female friends. Mike McKevitt banged 2 broads at one time, one of whom was his wife, with whom he has 4 children. And this was a fracturing of the trust that was engendered by being a founding member of the National Justice Party. So much so that he was shunned for months.
So this just the joke is just the word 3, because
the joke is just the
he
word
had a
3
three-way.
because he had a threesome, and that's the joke.
Being such morally upright and fiercely ethical people, this shocked them to the point where it destroyed their relationship with it.
Like it destroyed. I mean, I think they were still personally friends with him, but it's just like, well, no, you can't be a member of the organization. Now, I will say
so
that
it was
again,
the looks of it more than the actual.
It was well, and I think even like the thing itself. I mean, look, I'm going to give them like, and I don't like doing this kind of drama with these people, right? You know, like I don't care that they had a threesome. Like, good on you. I think it's ridiculous that like that's the thing. But the thing that, like, if I put on my very good leftist hat and say some of the details seem to be that the woman they had a threesome with was someone who was engaged in some activism with Evergreen, which was the sort of women's auxiliary of the National Justice Party. Something I forgot to say is that the National Justice Party was by design 100% men. And so Evergreen is like the women's side of it, right? You know, because of course they can't let girls into their special club. Okay. And this person whose name I do not know, and I don't care to know, I'm not interested in those kinds of details. I'm not, I don't care. But it does appear to be like she may have been someone who was in, some kind of position within that. And McKevitt, as like sort of a leader, having relations with her might have been sort of an abuse of power. Although this seems to be like 100% consensual and there was no like direct line of like authority or anything. I'm just saying, like, if I wanted to put on my, maybe there's some there, but that's not the thing these people are arguing about. Like,
I was going to say that's not what
Yeah.
upset them. The power
No.
imbalance in the employer-employee or boss-subordinate relationship. That's not what upset them, surely.
No, certainly not. And there are stories of, and I cannot like, look, the national meetings and the like regional meetings that these guys went to, a few times a year. There are rumors that like a lot of shit went down, and there were rumors of like the leading guys like kind of like going through the Evergreen girls like they were Kleenex or whatever. There were definitely rumors of that. I put no weight in that. Like,
I'm getting AFPAC flashbacks now.
Hold on. Yeah, I mean that stuff definitely happens in I mean the thing is that these guys are all in their like 30s and 40s, so it's like it's not like you're 24 or you're and you're at your like you're at CPAC, you're suddenly like fucking the other intern or whatever. It's just like but they're I'm very much on the like what you guys do in your bedroom is your business. What I find very funny about it is like at one time a follower of Chris Cantwell's came at me on Twitter because I was saying negative things about Chris Cantwell, and like came at me and was like, this is like 2017, 2018, in kind of that era, and was like, well, yeah, but Cantwell's been with like 2 girls at the same time, and so therefore he's the massive cockmaster. And you could never
disappointed 2 women at once.
There are things I could say about that, but we're just going to leave that alone. The thing is,
that's
that,
what
like,
she said.
Any person I am like in like social contact with, and like we talk about this stuff, and it's like, yeah, a threesome is like baby's first like sexual experience outside
Yeah.
of monogamy, kind of. I
Yeah.
mean, this is playing. This is being like sexually adventurous on easy mode. Like this is, there are tons of like Midwestern couples who bring it. Yeah, like this is very, very normal. Like this is extraordinarily normal. Especially if this is like a friend of both of them, and they just all like had a nice night together. This is nothing, like
Yeah, this is like
and I
this is like Carl McLaughlin in Blue Velvet saying, "Oh, I like Heineken."
That's exactly Heineken. Yeah, no, exactly. So, I find it very funny that this was one of the. This is not even the first incident, but this is the funniest one. Is that like this became like, well, suddenly you are just completely banned from any of our events. You don't get to hang out with us anymore.
I mean, Moms for Liberty do it, so
I do actually have some audio of Alison McKevitt. Well, I have a lot of audio of Alison McKevitt because she used to do a podcast with Warren Balog's wife and some others. Warren Balog's wife is Emily Eucas. We will eventually do an episode on her. It's far past due. But I do have some audio of her at an NJP mass meeting talking with Jazz Hands McFeels, who, in his role in Fascination, hyped NJP to the highest levels. And so we have just Jazz Hands used to go around these mass meetings and get like little 3-minute interviews with like a whole bunch of people who are prominent in the movement and in the, and then he would put them on his Fascination podcast. And so here we have a minute or so of just Allison sort of talking, and it gives you a sense of, it's recorded at one of these mass meetings, so it gives you a sense of like what the mood was there and what the kind of energy around this sounded like. So we're just going to play this right now.
I'm here with Allison, the sole founder and leader of Evergreen. We've wanted to get you on from NJP before. We're here with your one half of your beautiful family. How are you this evening, and what do you have to say?
Well, I'm doing great. That was a fantastic event. We had so many children, so many women, beautiful families. I have my own 2 little toddlers here with us tonight, and they're trying my patience, but sweet white babies are worth it, right?
Beautiful white babies. So many kids here tonight, and it's actually a testament to the organization that you've built, which is the women's organization. That is Eric Stryker next to me. A women's organization, and the number of kids and families here. I mean, that wouldn't have been possible without everything you've done.
Yes, well, that's actually a really big goal of mine, is to make all of these events as family friendly as possible. And I think we did a really good job of doing that tonight. We had so many toys and games for the kids to participate in. So many women that I've never met before. This was a really fantastic event and a testament to how family friendly this whole movement really is.
you can see the trouble coming, because in that clip she's talking about how she likes to get lots of people together for toys and games.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of toys and games apparently that she's interested in, I mean, even McKevitt on the Full House podcast that I showed you the intro for, he said it only happened once, and like I am pressing X to doubt on that one. Like, I think this was a regular thing. McKevitt has particular he's a big guy, he's strong, he works in the trades. There's a particular kind of woman, particularly this kind of like right-wing woman, who is very happy to
League of German Girls type woman.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, I'm not complaining that you had sex. I think it's bad that you're a Nazi and think that you get to do this. Like, no, this is actually like, stop being a Nazi, like repent, become a at least left leaning. And you know what? I will never talk about your sex life again. I don't want to talk about it now. But it is, again, it's the ridiculousness of it that I find amusing. So,
and the hypocrisy, as per fucking usual.
Well, and like, again, I could like ding her for being like, I want to make like a family friendly event. I want to have like family kids around and everything like that. And then like, it would be the very like normal, like sort of like liberal scolding thing to be like, but family friendly, but then you're sleeping with your friend and whatever, but it's like, no, that actually is, within like people in marriages with open relationships, within like poly communities, like there are like part of what poly is like helping to raise kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's very, very common for like people in their 30s to be like, oh yeah, well, my boyfriend can come and like watch the kids for a couple of hours so I can like take a nap or what. Like it's, raising, like this is incredibly healthy behavior, except they're Nazis.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the thing,
Our way of looking at things is that you can be in a polyamorous relationship or whatever you want to call it, as long as everybody's consenting and nobody's being abused, etc., etc. And that's all perfectly healthy. And you can have your kids and your family friendly events and all that. And as long as everything's healthy and consensual, who gives a fuck? That's our way of looking at the world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Come join us. The orgasms are better. Anyway, not that I can speak from experience or anything. Anyway, so of course, there's more than just a threesome that caused this collapse. Really, the collapse was baked in from the beginning, and I could have pulled 100 clips of like everyone laying blame at like different sources. And like I listened to this was like a huge deal when it happened. And like literally everybody had to throw their 2 cents in on a podcast. I archived all of it. It's all available. I could put together an oral history using their own words of all the shit that went down and like who is actually to blame for this. But the long and the short of it is what happened was they start the National Justice Party. They want to convert. So there were previously, going back to like 2014, 2015 era, fans of The Daily Show and the other TRS shows started forming like local groups where they could all go and hang out together. They call these pool parties for like in the moment current racial headlines around Black people not being allowed to visit public pools, and like there was an outcry around that, and so they're like, no, we're the pool parties because we're whites and we're actually excluding Black people from our organizations, et cetera, et cetera. They thought it was funny. The name stuck, and that's still in use today. These are very informal local groups. They did go through, like, in order to join one, you had to go through vetting through someone at TRS had to sort of like personally vet you. Like you had to get on I don't know exactly what their method was, but they had to vet you and make sure you weren't like some filthy communist or something. But they were very locally organized, very locally. And these are drinking clubs. These are hangout clubs. These are, again, forming the kind of thing that like the German, the NSDAP would have formed. Is like, we're going to make like social clubs out of this, and we're going to use this as a way to organize people politically.
Yeah. Completely divorced from all historical context of all
exactly,
of that.
Exactly.
And the reality of the world today, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Okay.
The idea of using a material analysis of like analyzing politics is completely lost on these people, even the ones who claim to be like read on this stuff. And I do not claim to be like deeply read on this. Like I feel like I have a good handle on kind of what's going on. And when even I can call your thing bullshit based on like basic principles, the thing is, you're not doing the same thing, But what happened was the National Justice Party was formed, and they wanted to convert all those people into dues-paying members of the National Justice Party, right? And so you're taking people who are used to just coming and hanging out with their buddies and getting a keg or whatever, and suddenly it's, well, no, you have to pay dues now, and the dues are like $30 a month. Like these are not like. This is not like throw in $5. This is a significant investment of money. And they wanted you to come out and do like organization. They wanted you to come to protest. They wanted you to do stickering campaigns. They wanted you to do flyering campaigns. They wanted you to do, and there's a pressure to do that. And so these.
Hey, I've got a great idea about how we can make ourselves popular. We'll charge you to socialize with your friends.
Exactly. So, and internally, there's a ton of like conflict between the various members of the National Justice Party, those 7 people we talked about. Particularly, apparently, Tony Hovater was probably taking a huge, way too much money from the National Justice Party's donations. And all these people were apparently paid like in the like low thousands of dollars a month. Like in the I think Hovader was paid like, I don't know. I hate to quote numbers because I'm getting this from like forums where people are like claiming things. He was apparently being paid $4,000 a month to be the chief executive officer, and that is absurd. In so the rest of my clips are taken from an Odyssey channel from an Australian man who calls himself Randbot. I don't know a whole lot about Randbot. I can't. It's unlistenable content. It's like 6-hour live streams.
The name is not encouraging.
It's just too much. And there's so little content. It's one of those like fucking live streams, right? It's just everywhere. If you step off of YouTube for like 5 minutes, you're gonna find one.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jesse Dunstan is good friends with Randbot, and after the collapse of the National Justice Party, went on to explain kind of what happened. Now, in this, and I can't overemphasize this too much, in this 6-hour and 17-minute live stream, the actual juicy bits start at about the 3-hour and 20-minute mark. And they go throughout the rest of the video. And we're gonna play maybe like 5 minutes of that 3.5 hours or so. So I'm leaving a lot on the table, but this is Jesse explaining to Randbot in the audience kind of what happened here.
Just before you start, are there any sick number jokes to look forward to, or anything like that? You know, any sophisticated humor where you sort of refer to other things using a number? Because I really enjoyed that.
I don't think that's the case. I think as I recall, there are no real numbers mentioned except the clip of these 600 supporters, the 600 paid supporters. I didn't actually include that in these clips because it was just kind of isolated. But apparently the NJP and all of its time for all the like 3 years it operated, it managed to get 600 people to pay to be a member of the party, and was just leeching money from TRS the whole time. This is from Jesse's perspective. This is from like him complaining as a small business owner and a like successful small business owner. Whatever you have to say about TRS, and I have many things I have and will say about TRS. It is a successful operating business for sure. Yep. They make paywall material. They produce a lot of content. People willingly pay for this content. My suspicion is that that at least some percentage of that money is coming from whales who can just donate, $50,000 a year with no question.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have a large number of like paid supporters. So no number jokes though, as far as I remember. So keep your ear out for one. If you find a funny one, then let me know, and I'll give them credit for that.
Will NJP transform into a civil rights organization?
This is Randbot, and he's reading a question.
That's a very lofty goal, and I wonder where you would get the idea that such a thing could be done. A civil rights organization. Civil rights organizations, or organizations that are endowed with tens of millions of dollars by Jewish donors. Where would that come from? Okay, where would that sort of thing come from?
Yeah, like actual, like what you consider civil rights organizations, like they're faking gay. They're fake, like that. That's like the street team of the establishment. Like name one that isn't.
The establishment is designed to exclude the idea that whites have civil rights. So first of all, there's that. In the NJP,
it's worth pausing there. I included that because this is legitimately how these people see the civil rights movement of the 60s. Is like, no, those people, like Martin Luther King, was just propped up by the establishment. And that's the reason that it's like, no, there were secretly Jews that wanted to destroy white people. And the way they did that was sticking the blacks on them. Like, this is so common in this movement as to be like completely unstated. Like, they don't even have to state
it's
this.
The bread and butter of these movements. Yeah. It's just sorry, the establishment exists to deny civil rights to white people. It just I don't know. Maybe, it's been a while. Maybe I've lost my acclimatization, but I lost it. Anyway,
I mean, not to drive. Like, I understand that people get this, right? What he means by denying civil rights to white people, he means like denying the rights of white people to discriminate against people of other races and people of other genders and people of other sexual orientations, etc. Like, the ACLU fights for white people all the time. You know, civil rights organizations fight on behalf of like union organizing. Like, there are a ton of like leftist, liberal, even like they're like black people are not excluded from civil rights.
Historically, the ACLU has gone to bat for people that they shouldn't have, including the far right,
including the literal marchers in Charlottesville at Unite the Right. Literally those people. The people who are talking right now. Jesse did not attend Unite the Right, but the group TRS had a large presence at Unite the Right. These literal people, the literal individuals we're talking about, were defended by the ACLU in 2017. So when they talk about white civil rights, what they really mean is kind of what states' rights meant in the 1860s. It's the same concept,
Yeah. No, it's just, words do actually have, I know this is a controversial view these days. Words do actually have meanings. Things do actually mean things. So, as I say, I think I'm a little bit out of practice listening to this stuff. So, I heard the phrase civil rights and the assertion the establishment denies civil rights to white people. And no, that's a silly thing to say. That's a very silly thing to say.
I don't know what it's going to do next, but you're going to just basically, I think their strategy is to continue with this idea of doing protest actions and activism.
Well, I mean, that's the stuff I'd been loving over the last year.
Okay. The difference being that there's just not going to be like mandatory this or that, mandatory participation, and no more telling. Like there was I don't know how many hundreds of people that were turned away or that chose not to go along because they decided to tell people you're either going to pay for a supporter membership, you're going to pay dues, or you gotta go. That was a catastrophic failure as far as numbers go. So I think they're going to plan to do the same thing going forward, just hopefully with more without mandatory membership, mandatory payment. They're hoping that more people want to participate with that kind of stuff, and that will attract more people. But I wouldn't call it a civil rights.
But the kind of people who won't like throw a $5 note on the counter once a month.
This is scintillating content, I have to say.
Yeah, no. One thing that's, and again, the reason I'm sharing it here is that, like, in December, this was recorded on, I think, December 16th, somewhere in that range. It's middle of December, 2 weeks before Christmas or so. At the time, there was some question about whether the organization or whether the name, the LLC called the National Justice Party, would continue or whether it would stop operations. That's still kind of up in the air. They were doing an operation at the time called Operation White Christmas, in which they were taking requests for needy white families who needed toys for their kids at Christmas, and they were spreading a lot of money around to racist white people I actually think the children of racists should actually be able to have a nice holiday season. Like, I don't have a problem with that. And your local toy drive would have also given that to you had you not wanted to not be around all the stinking blacks or whatever. No, what I find interesting there is that at the time it was very much in question about like what was going to happen to the name. And as of the time of this recording, I checked it this afternoon, the National Justice Party website is currently down. So we will see if I think there was something of like Warren Balog was going to take it over, but Warren Balog has no ability to produce income on his own. Like, he doesn't have like a big podcast network that he can just pay himself a salary for.
Yeah.
So it's very likely. I mean, again, you listen to Jesse here, and look, Jesse Dunstan has wished me dead. Right? So, I wished me dead personally, like almost by name. Like, it's fine. I have no reason to stand for Jesse here or to take his version of events at face value. In fact, there are certain things he says that in terms of like how active Mike was in this and how much like the fuck ups behind the scenes were Mike just having a hands-off approach. That's kind of the story they're telling. Yeah, I doubt that very seriously. I think Mike was much more involved in being a shithead than he wants to say today. But I think this version of events in which the NJP was basically siphoning money and resources from TRS, and the ego queens of the white nationalist podcast e-celeb scene were like sucking up that money and squabbling and just could not get along with each other. I think that story sounds very true to me, just based on what I've absorbed just from viewing it from afar. That feels very accurate. So yeah.
Well, thankfully, this is the first time that Nazis have ever done something that's been an absolute catastrophe and an embarrassment, and decided to just deny that the leader had anything to do with it, and that it went wrong at all.
Yeah. I'll let the audience work out the very opaque reference you just made there, and just move on into the next clip.
I should have just used numbers.
A funded national leadership was a huge problem, and which is it's a valid complaint. It's like, okay, I formed the pool party in let's say Phoenix, right? Say I've got 25 guys in Phoenix that are, they're not all TRS listeners, but they're all WNs. Some of them are TRS guys. This came together because they heard about vetting and they heard about this was a way to get people together, right? So you've got 25 guys in Phoenix, and some of them are some of them want to do sticker stuff. Some of them will go out and protest here or there. A lot of them will be interested in going to a national meeting or whatever to hang out and meet people and see speeches. But then you tell them hey, every single one of you right now, got to start kicking in $30 a month. Otherwise I can get lost. And the results of that is you get 27 of those guys walk, or what did I say, 25 guys? So say 22 of those guys walk and 3 of them are all right, I'll do that. That's kind of how it worked out. So, because, what do I need you for? What do I need you sending $30 for? If I'm going to do a protest, if I'm going to hang stickers, what am I getting for $30?
We did get some number comedy after all.
We did. 27 is a lesser number than 22. I mean, he misspoke. It's fine. It's just, but yeah, no, there's some number comedy there.
Yeah, I'm just being an asshole. It's fine.
No, it's fine. Being an asshole towards Nazis is always ethical. Prince meme, Yeah. It's always ethical.
It sounds to me like what you have here is a problem of sort of a combination of problems. One problem is that you have a pool of potential recruits who are not actually all that committed. I mean, not to the extent of really stumping up money committed, And the sort of the related intersecting problem you have is that you have what you have on your hands here, really, in place of an actual movement or even an attempt to seriously knuckle down and create an actual movement, is a grift where you want to make money. So you have a pretty fundamental. You have an internal economic contradiction, as somebody might put it, where you have a mismatch of people who want to make money, and the people they want to make money from don't want to give it to them. That's not a tremendously good business model.
I mean, I hate to give these guys advice, right? But
I'll give them some advice.
I think about food. I could give them plenty of advice that I'm not going to print on this podcast, but I think about something like food not bombs. And look, I've never worked with or for, or I've never gone to a food not bombs thing. It's not, so I can't speak for it. But I know a lot of people who have. It's a clear kind of anti-fascist organizing, collective. From everything I've heard, they do good work. They're perfectly, so again, I'm not endorsing, but everyone I know who's done work for them, plenty of people get into anti-fascist work. by doing stuff with food not bombs. You're feeding people who need food. You're providing material resources to the poorest in society, to people who, and they're doing that work. You're providing a material benefit. What material benefit was the NJP offering to these members of the supporter groups? It's like, well, we need money to keep functioning, to go off and do things, but then what are those things actually doing for you materially in your life, right? And the answer is like, not fucking much, except like, we're going to make more podcasts.
Yeah.
And then like, but then I can just pay for the TRS paywall subscription for $10 a month and get all those like what's the point,
Yeah.
Especially if you then have like membership requirements where I have to go and do like a stickering campaign, a flyering campaign. Like these guys would talk about how great it made them feel to go out and put out NJP stickers or like anti-Semitic flyers in places, and how it was like a great like group bonding thing. But it's not having a material impact on their lives or on the lives even of the people that they're trying to reach. They're not going and like trying to improve the lives. They're just saying, come and listen to our shows, come and be a part of our thing. We're gonna like take this country back, with no like way of doing it. And this is why the NJP was enormously successful by the standards of like, in terms of its messaging, in terms of its branding, in terms of its, like the membership roles. Like there are political parties that have been around for decades that didn't get even the amount of support that the National Justice Party gets. The American Freedom Party, which used to be called American Third Position, it dates back to the 80s, I think. They run a presidential candidate every year, and they get a few hundred votes. Like that's as far as it goes. And that one is considered amazingly successful by the standards of these kinds of groups. But they fizzled in part because they're all assholes and they can't get along. I'm just imagining like, we're going to start a political party. The leaders are going to be ContraPoints, H Bomber Guy, Lindsay Ellis, Dan Olson, and Hassan B, Vosh. These are going to be the leaders of our new political movement. And like, first of all, some of those people are actively toxic. None of these people has any experience in political. These people have internal conflicts on all sorts of matters. And just to put a pin in this, it's not there's never a thing in terms of the National Justice Party, in terms of its collapse, in which there were ideological divisions. Like, it's not like, well, some of us were a little bit more small business, small market, libertarian inclined, and some of us were a little bit more, like authoritarian, command economy inclined. And so we had a difference of opinion in terms of et cetera, et cetera. None of that ever came into play. That was never an issue. The issue was just personal dick swinging bullshit. I have two more clips. The last one is going to get into that a little bit with Eric Stryker, who it turns out everybody always hated, except for Mike Enoch. And because Mike Enoch put up with him and liked him, he got to stick around. But Jesse in particular absolutely hated Eric Stryker. Anyway, we have one more clip before we get there. And so comments before we hit play?
Yeah, very briefly, I mean, just echoing what you said, really, they're not even, like, you look at people that practice what you could call entryism. Like the Mormon Church does this, Scientologists do this, Trotskyist sects do this. They try to get into anti-war movements. They try to they get into disasters and hand out food packs wearing T-shirts with their organization. They're not even doing anything like that. And we've touched upon which can be effective sometimes, but we've touched upon the fact that this is completely historically illiterate. It's an attempt to sort of mimic a strategy that they don't really understand, because they don't. The Nazis did the whole sort of community thing because they were directly aping the structure and the practice of the German Social Democratic Party, which is the biggest workers' party, the biggest left-leaning electoral party in Europe at the time, in the early 20th century. And that was all. It was a huge organization full of clubs and associations and stuff. But they did stuff. They did Amdram. They did hobbies together. They did hiking. They did exercise together. I mean, it was the culture at the time. I'm not going to go into this in a huge way, but they actually did stuff together. The party offered people stuff, and
Right.
they think they can get people to stump up cash essentially for nothing.
I mean, if those organizations, if the NJP was taking $30 a month from people and then offering them, all right, we're throwing a picnic in your area,
Something
3 times a year, something, you're going to get to meet with people, but they were already meeting with people. They were already there hanging out and doing things for free. It's just like, it was literally just, it's just give us money so we can make more content, so we can go. And they did some like public demonstrations in particular, the most disgusting. I mean, they're all disgusting, right? But they really hopped on the genocide of the Palestinians because they hate Jews. And I can't tell you how difficult it has been in this time of watching Israeli crimes against humanity, and seeing that on my timeline, seeing that in my news every day, and then listening for hours a day while these people chortled along with Hamas, with the atrocities committed by Hamas on October 7th.
Yeah.
Because any killing of Jews is justified. Because ultimately they don't give a shit about the Palestinians. I've said this on Twitter. If Egypt was doing this to the Palestinians, this would be like, well, this is a regional conflict. This is just, this is just Arabs killing Arabs. They would probably use different words than Arabs, but you know what I mean? This is just, this is just brown people killing brown people. This is the authority of the Egyptian state taking control of some territory. They wouldn't care. It's only because it's Jewish people who are perceived to be doing it. It's only because it's Israel that is doing this that they give a shit. So they tried this kind of entryism using just the genocide in Palestine. They use this. They tried, and they have done a lot of propaganda around it. And frankly, I just haven't had the energy to prep an episode of that. That's just a lot. I don't know.
It's exhausting.
We might do something. I mean, that was literally I stopped being on Twitter for a while. I literally I also got COVID around that time, and I was just I just need to not even follow this. I was still listening to the Nazis, but I'm I just can't do this. It's just, and when I get beaten down by this stuff, how bad it has to be, right?
Yeah, if anyone has antibodies, it's you. But
yeah, I have some pretty strong antibodies, but I was definitely in that place of all right, I'm just going to nope out of this one for a while. I just need to not see burned Palestinian children any longer. I just can't take it. But back to the point of the episode. We'll do 2 more clips. One of them is just kind of more of the same, and then we get into a little bit of the drama, and then we'll close it out. So
that was the whole fucking problem. You guys are internet personalities who do content. Somebody else has to do the I'm going to do a big political fucking organization that.
Well, I am. I just embrace it. I know I'm not cut out to be a politician, but I just want to be cut out to be an entertainer.
Yeah.
I got some bad news for you, Randall.
I'm cut out to craft the message and spread the message. Actually, well, Mike crafts the message. I'm more I try to make it fun and silly so that it's a little bit more. That was the edge we have. Anybody that hates on me, you're just fucking autistic and stupid. How do you think we got this popular? Autistic people spitting hate facts into a microphone. People have been doing that for decades and it doesn't go anywhere. You come out and you do a parody of a fucking of a Journey song. Now you've got something to go along with that. You got to do both, and that's what we did. A lot of people are mad about NJP and TRS because they couldn't imitate it. Because we made it look fucking easy. That's because we're the best at it.
Yeah, that's the problem here. You're just too fucking good.
You're too fucking good at being a racist entertainer. And, I included that clip in part because, the thesis that I've always said about these guys, going back to 2017, long before this was a podcast, was they're using humor as a way of injecting themselves into this kind of politics. They are merging, Jesse says exactly what I've always said about them, which they have said about themselves going back to 2017. There's no there's no new thing there, but it is nice to hear it in 2023, when I first listened to this. That they know there's no within their circle, they know exactly what their appeal has always been, is to merge this kind of like shock jock humor with a quote unquote serious white nationalist political theory. But also like Jesse just kind of being like, it's because I'm the most talented Nazi podcaster, and that's why I deserve my tens of thousands of dollars a month in revenue for my business. It's because nobody else could do this. And yeah, that's why you're hanging out with Randbot for 6 hours. You know, I don't know. I wouldn't hang out with Randbot for 6 minutes, probably not 6 seconds. Yeah, I have no desire to hang out with Randbot. You know, I feel bad even listening to Randbot. I had to listen to that. I didn't listen to the whole 6 hours. I listened to the kind of 3 hour and change chunk. I listened to that about 3 times in like doing like vague prep for this episode. So I could like find clips. That is, and believe me, I've given you guys like 4 minutes of it. It does not get more entertaining. I promise you. It is exactly what you think it is. When I originally like was prepping to do this, I was gonna go in and like do like the drama stream. Like I was just gonna like talk about the interesting details of like how everybody hated each other the whole time, but like accurately sourcing that and then like trying to like vet it and trying to figure out how much of this is true and how much isn't. That's a big project, which I have no ability to do just with the resources I have at my disposal. As I assume details will come out over the next, couple of years, and like we may do like kind of a bigger thing around that. I could again assemble an oral history with, 80 hours of work or something, just finding the clips and doing everything. Like I could do that. I have all the material. Instead, I just want to talk like Eric Stryker. He founded national-justice.com, his like news website, in which he's doing hard-hitting journalism about how the FBI is secretly in control by the Jews, etc. Those kinds of things. He claims that the National Justice Party was like his baby. It was his thing that he was doing. And oh boy, Cantwell also had some commentary on the collapse of the National Justice Party behind his paywall, which he then made public, particularly because he has always hated Eric Stryker. Not even for the very good reasons that people hate Eric Stryker because of his personality, but because Eric Stryker, because he doesn't believe in libertarian economics. So that we could do full episode. Oh no. Believe this hate goes back to like 2018, my friend. Like this is a raw and deep personal hate. It cuts deep. I may prep full episodes on Cantwell's arguments with Jazz Hands McFeels and Cantwell's arguments with Eric Stryker. There's enough material for 2 separate episodes, and it would give you a lot of insight into the actual ideology around these groups. So hey, we might prep for that.
Stop threatening me with a good time. No, I just think it's a good. Anyway, I think it's a good summing up. Libertarian economics, so stupid that even Eric Stryker can see through
it. Yeah, and Eric Stryker's version of socialism, so stupid even Cantwell can see through it. I feel very much, and we're a little bit off track here, but it's fine. You can cut this if it doesn't work. There was an early episode of Sam Harris's podcast, which was then called Waking Up, but then when woke became like a terrible, terrible thing, he renamed it Making Sense. But there was a very early episode with Sam Harris talking to Jordan Peterson. And I found that listen fascinating because Sam Harris correctly diagnosed Jordan Peterson all of the faults, like from his perspective of Jordan Peterson, that you're just talking in vague terms, you're not being rigorous, there's no rigor, you're just doing, And then Jordan Peterson correctly identified all the problems with Sam Harris of missing context, and it's like these two people each understand the terribleness of each other, and they're both equally terrible. Actually, I think Sam Harris years later is actually now worse than Jordan Peterson. the genocide apologia for what's going on in Israel right now. Like, there is no one I hate more for this. Even Mikey like is not as bad as Sam Harris in my opinion. And we might Ina is doing some great work on that. I'm just gonna let Ina Polite Conversations just
Yes, indeed.
dig into that so I don't have to prep an episode. But yeah, she's great. Ina, you're welcome back at the show anytime, of course. So yeah, let's just finish this. Let's as Coach Finstock says at the end of every episode, let's bring this puppy home with one more clip.
Striker released audio saying he would do a striker Mike again if Mike was in full control of it comes out. No, sorry, Striker. Mike doesn't want to work with you. I don't want to work with you. You're not a team player. Good luck on whatever it is you start up on your own. He says that the reason he says he would like to do Striker Mike again because then he doesn't have to run something on his own. He always needs somebody else to run his stuff. And he has the nerve to call me a parasite when it's like, no, nigger, I enabled you. Mike enabled you.
He called you a
Do
parasite?
your own fucking thing. He called me a parasite.
You fucking run
for
everything.
Basically, yep, I run everything for Mike and make sure Mike doesn't have to do all this stupid work. And Stryker came on as like the co-host of the secondary show. Just because that show was kind of popular doesn't mean you get to call names like that. No.
Oh.
And basically, you burned off. Mike was the only person with any patience for Stryker for years, and he finally burned out Mike last month. It's amazing. I was shocked. I had basically resigned myself to like, well, I'm just gonna have Stryker in my company doing this work. I'm gonna be attached to Stryker for the rest of my life because Mike just, no matter what Stryker does to him, no matter what Stryker does to us, it's just always going to be. And then I was shocked when he told me, like, yep.
He called me a nasty name. He called me a mean name. I don't like him, but I have to. He's in my gang because my friend likes him. I don't know why my friend likes him.
I get the feeling that it goes a lot deeper than that, like in terms of like Stryker just being like a total prima donna, thinking he's the smartest person on the planet. Because
he's a towering asshole. I mean,
yeah. But I think that like really that wits your whistle for just how like petty and personal a lot of this ends up being. Yeah. And I haven't even gotten into the fact that like I think I did mention Hovader was taking like thousands of dollars a month for a chief of operations role in which he had basically no real responsibilities and no real ability to execute on that role. There's a ton of like screenshots that have been shared. I put some of them. I didn't read any of them, but I put a bunch of them in the show notes. And I did not like pull these from the original forums. I took them from Telegram chats of people like arguing back and forth about this. Like, but they will be in the show notes, so you can go and read some of the internal drama, which I've explored here and using my own words. So like, you're not missing anything if you don't check it. But there's a ton of this in which they just argue back and forth about like just the nitty-gritty details. Greg Conte is like alleged to have like Conte alleged that they had stolen like $10,000 from the fund from him when he was supposed to be in charge of it, but they claimed that actually Conte had threatened to take it, and so they had moved it to a different bank account. And I have no idea. In the like shared like the TRS account or the NJP account, whatever account they had, I would really love a forensic accountant to go looking into all this stuff. Like, and and I think in the next like few years, it's a turn. Like there might be lawsuits that happen because of this, although very few of these people have any money, so like they can't afford to pay lawyers. So who knows? But like I would be delighted to really get the nitty-gritty like from legal filings about like what exactly happened in the background of some of this, because as the Unite the Right lawsuit, as Science v. Kessler kind of gave us a lot of insight into what was really going on in the background in 2017. I think in a few years we might see a lot more details are going to come out, and as they come out, I will be following it as best I can, and I will share as much of it as I can with you guys, because ultimately you're the real heroes because you listen and you pay me. So anyway, it's fine. I was trying to wrap it up with a joke, but like I failed at that. That's fine. I'm just
there's no numbers in it.
I'm tired of no numbers in that. Yeah,
it needs to be a cryptic reference to something using a number. Don't you know how comedy works?
Apparently not.
The only thing I did want to, I kind of wanted to do something to mark a feeling that I have, and it's not a feeling that we haven't expressed on this show before, but just the feeling that just everything that we talk about just gets worse and worse and worse, which was back in series 1 of I Don't Speak German. We talked a little bit about the Weinsteins, Eric and Brett and Heather, and it's just, I'm not going to go into this in detail, but it's striking to me. It's like an emblem, of the whole thing. It's like a quintessence of the whole thing. It's just how much worse. I mean, all of them, but Brett in particular, for some reason, is the one that strikes me. Just how much worse he's gotten since we talked about him, because he's batshit crazy reactionary nonsense when we talk about him. These days, he's on the Alex Jones 17 to 20 million people have been killed by the COVID vaccine thing. And he's just recently gone on Rogan, and he's now doing HIV denialism. He's now denying that HIV causes AIDS. So,
I did not see that.
Yeah, it's far more likely to be the gay lifestyle, apparently.
I did recently check out the video they recorded right after the Dobbs decision, which revoked Roe v. Wade in the United States. But yeah, no, Brett is just, you listen to him in interviews that he did in 2017, and he was like, he sounded pretty reasonable. He said, like, he was kind of a right winger. He was kind of, but he was like this kind of moderate, like he talks like a liberal, just kind of doing well, we just have to, understand that, we don't hate gay people, and we just want to, have, in the same way that like this reasonableness is a sort of mask for like a kind of a far right ideology, or at least a right wing ideology. The further he's gotten into his like e-celeb fame, the more he's embracing like the most absurd claims from these far right sources. Like the fact that, like, for me, the thing is like, more people know InfoWars. Like, he appeared on InfoWars like a couple of days ago. More people know InfoWars, but he also appeared. he appeared on the Epoch Times, which is just a completely batshit, like fairly mainstreamish. It is not an overtly like white nationalist organization or anything, but the craziest shit. But it's like slightly more respectable because they have a little bit more production value than Alex Jones does, and they don't like scream into a camera. He and Heather appeared on what's it called? Art Bell's show.
Yeah,
Art Bell, like the conspiracy theorists. They appeared on his show, and that was like 2 years ago. Like, and so like they just gotten worse and worse and worse.
Okay, so I think that's the show. Thanks for coming back, everybody, and welcoming us back. It's really, really good to be back, even though the things that we're talking about are, of course, horrifying.
And rain donations, $30 a month to be my friend. That's what it takes.
That's right.
$30 a month to be friends with someone who listens to this show. That's really what it is. Yeah.
Sound business model.
If you listen to this show, you need to give us $30 a month and not be friends with anyone who does not also pay us $30 a month. That's certainly not a cult-like dynamic in the slightest.
No, certainly not. And a very sound business model, and a absolutely sound method of political organization. The revolution can't be far off. Okay, so we're going to wind up now. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm on, regardless of what the end credits say, because I need to make the new end credits again. I'm not on Twitter, although I do sometimes pop in under the I Don't Speak German account. But I am on Blue Sky now. I'm Times Carcass on Blue Sky. And Daniel and I both have the old Patreons. If you want to help us out, that's very much appreciated. Or just share the show around. That's very much appreciated too. In the meantime, we'll be back fairly soon. We've got a bonus out that's just on our Patreons, and there'll be another one of those soon. In the meantime, Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
That was I Don't Speak German. Thanks for listening. Follow us in all the places you usually follow podcasts. For now, at least, we're both still on Twitter. I'm @_Jack_Graham_, and Daniel is @Daniel E. Harper. And the show's Twitter is @IDSGpod. If you want to help us do the work we do, and gain a few benefits along the way, we both have Patreons. And our theme music is by Loon the Band.